Morning, Commissioner. How are you, sir?
All right, you?
I'm here.
Morning, Tony. How are you? Brad.
Good. Beautiful day.
Yep.
See Harper.
Things go a little hairy before I could tell that you were very frustrated.
How's Rhonda?
I'm just fine. Hey, the camera's already started because it's already 7 or 9 o'clock. So we are live right now.
She's not telling me what you want. Or saying that. I said, I have had multiple conversations.
Are you doing okay, Tony?
I'm doing her.
I said, you don't want to
That's
listen,
what I've heard.
and you've got to start listening.
Good man.
I really needed to talk to Rick Boyles, but I guess he's not here. I'm free. Is that Nita Boa? Are they moving forward today? No, she's not gonna be here. Okay. I need to correct his thing.
Thought you got lost, Bill.
I did, I had to left instead of right.
Did you think about keep going? Did you think about just keep going?
Yeah, you joking?
She's not gonna be here, so I put that there, and then I don't know if you're adding the town of Hardinsburg, then whatever.
Ready? Ready? Yeah. Okay, everybody please stand. Say a pledge of prayer. Tony, will you lead the pledge?
Yep. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for these many blessings you've bestowed upon us. Lord God, watch over us. Help us make wise decisions for this county. Let us all come together, put our differences aside, and do what's best for our community. Bless those who serve and protect us. In His precious name we pray. Amen.
Approval of the agenda.
I don't have one.
Carrie, you got another agenda?
They're up there. He can walk up there, yeah. Got legs.
Thank you, sir.
You need one,
No, I got one.
It's just where you add or not.
Just approval of the way it's written.
Okay.
Okay? You all right?
Yep.
Make a motion?
I make that motion.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Lucy Brenton.
That is me.
Hmm?
Apparently not.
I think you all know me by now, Lucy Brenton, 8905 US Highway 150 West in Hardinsburg. Came here to talk about some county business today. Can you all hear me? That sounds a little bit better. I have now I'm gonna have to print it out, I guess. I have a FOIA Act, Freedom of Information Act request that I was gonna file today. But I expect you all are probably gonna say something that I need to add to that FOIA Act, so I'll wait to file it until after today's meeting and add those current things. I want to go over the last meeting where Stephanie, our election official, had said, quote, fast forward and into about 2020 to 2021, we started getting calls again by a different individual. So Stephanie had gone through the last meeting, about 53 minutes into the meeting, to say that the dissolution of Hardinsburg was started by some concerned citizens. It was tabled for a while and then came back in 2021, where she said the calls started again by a different individual. Now, a really big part of the meeting last time was arguing about whether there were people that actually wanted Hardinsburg dissolved or not. So according to Stephanie's own testimony at the previous meeting, an individual called, and that seemed to start the whole thing. So as one individual, I'd really like to know who that person is, because that's certainly not a majority of the town. Now, Commissioners Ewan, Marshall, and previously Roberts, who was my previous commissioner, had all made it seem that there were folks clamoring for the county to take over Hardinsburg. There's little evidence that exists to support this claim. Stephanie's own testimony said an individual. In fact, the opposite is true. A petition was circulated, and an overwhelming majority of Hardinsburg residents wanted to keep the town alive and the county out. This was recently repeated with a Facebook survey and in the community, and as I recall looking at it, I can't put it in front of me because my phone's recording, but I recall 80% of the residents of Hardinsburg wanted to keep the town and reverse the dissolution. 14% said they needed more info, and only 6% said that they were in favor of dissolution. But regardless of the opinions of lay people, we have to ask ourselves, what is the law? Well, luckily, Indiana's Attorney General, Todd Rokita, wrote a letter about this very issue, and it contradicts the things that Stephanie put forward. So just in case this hasn't been read into the record before, I'm going to read it now. This is from Todd Rokita to the Honorable Gary Byrne in the Indiana State Senate on April 26, 2023, regarding dissolution of the town of Hardinsburg. Our file, 23-MLG-06. Dear Senator Byrne, this Memorandum of Legal Guidance, MLG, addresses your request to the Indiana Office of the Attorney General regarding the dissolution of the town of Hardinsburg, Indiana. Question presented. Was the town of Hardinsburg, properly dissolved by the county commissioners and the county election board? Here's the brief answer. It is unclear that Indiana Code Section 36-5-1.1-12 is applicable to the town of Hardinsburg because it does not appear the town was legally required to conduct an election during the past 10 years. Therefore, to dissolve the town, the General Assembly should legislate a repealing statement to that effect. Now, I'm going to pause there to take an aside, because in the last meeting, Stephanie brought forward something, and she said, and I quote, let's see, I'm not going to quote her, I'm going to quote this. And she said that in 1976, that all the small towns were repealed, and that Hardinsburg would have been included in that. So I went to the best research tool on the planet and asked it about this. Did the General Assembly repeal all the small towns in 1976? And Stephanie's quote was, there was a repeal back in 1976. That repeal would not apply to Hardinsburg. Specific acts of incorporation, rather than all small towns, were exempted from the repeal. Exemptions including acts of incorporation and their amendments. Hardinsburg was created by an act in 1893. We were created, and Todd Rokita is going to clarify this here in a second. Exemptions include acts of incorporation and their amendments before the 36th section of the General Assembly according to Indiana Code, and that Indiana Code is 1-1-1-2. So Todd Rokita goes on to say, the town of Hardinsburg, Indiana is in Washington County. It's home to 222 people according to the most recent data from the U.S. Census Bureau. According to the information received by the OAG, Office of Attorney General, Hardinsburg has a clerk, treasurer, and 3 town council members. The town receives an annual budget just under $40,000 and has over $300,000 in assets. That's astounding for such a small town, including a ballpark for which it does not have to pay maintenance expenses. The town allegedly does not have a charter or any established ordinances. In 2018, Hardinsburg failed an audit by the State Board of Accounts, which cited a lack of proper accounting practices, and it was the subject of an investigation involving missing funds. The OAG has been informed that Hardinsburg has, quote, never held formal elections, unquote, but it is unclear if it has never held them or just not recently. Nevertheless, the information provided indicates that elections have not been held in the past 10 years, and it does not appear that any candidates have filed for office in that time either. In April 2022, the Washington County Election Board, which would have consisted of Marshall, Ewens, and Roberts, conducted a public hearing and found that Hardinsburg had not elected town officers nor had a functioning government for the preceding 10 years. I don't know what you call functioning or not, but I know they had some meetings. The board certified and issued its findings to the Washington County Commissioners, who then adopted an ordinance to dissolve the town. So that would have followed Stephanie's assertion that there was an individual who in 20 to 21 started calling her about this, and then in 2022, it looks like the commission take action. So here's Todd Rokita's analysis in his official letter to us. Incorporation of the town of Hardinsburg and dissolution of small towns. Hardinsburg was originally incorporated pursuant to the Acts of 1893, C-42. Indiana Code Chapter 36-5.1.1 governs the dissolution of small towns in Indiana. From the information provided to the OAG, the town was dissolved pursuant to Indiana Code 36-5-1.1-12, which provides in relevant part, we're quoting from the Indiana Code here, B, a town subject to this chapter may be dissolved if the county election board of the county, in which the greatest percentage of population of the town is located, conducts a public hearing, finds that the town has not elected town officers or had a functioning town government during the preceding 10 years. C, the county election board shall certify the board's findings to the county executive, who may adopt an ordinance or in a county having a consolidated city or subject to 36-2-3.5, issue an order to dissolve the town. Here's what's super relevant. Todd Rokita says, because Hardinsburg was not established pursuant to law, but rather by law, in this case the Acts of 1893, this office opines that Acts of 1893 C-42 must also be repealed to properly effectuate dissolution. Taking an aside, I looked it up, I could not see that the Acts of 1893 C-42 had ever been repealed, which means that Hardinsburg was still legal. Back to Todd Rokita's letter. While it is arguably not a condition precedent to dissolution, since Indiana Code 36-5.1.1-12 was followed, and Acts 1893 Circa 42 does not appear to have been readopted or carried forward by the General Assembly, the OAG believes that legislative intent would be clearly established with a repealing statement from the General Assembly. And we've never gotten a repealing statement from the General Assembly regarding the town of Hardinsburg. The only thing that we've had is county commissioners acting on their own accord through an Indiana statute, which says that that they could do this, but unfortunately you guys are mistaken. Election requirements for a small town. Now generally, this is back to Todd Rokita, generally the county election board conducts elections for cities and towns in its county unless the town council adopts a resolution to establish a town board to conduct a town election. If no candidate has filed for an office, once filing deadlines have passed, then the town may not have a municipal election, and the town officers currently holding offices automatically hold over to serve another term. See Indiana Constitution Articles 15, Section 3, Indiana Code Sections 3-13-9-5.5 and 5.6. No election was required in that 10-year period that Stephanie was referring to when she certified that there had not been an election in 10 years, because it's clear from Todd Rokita's letter that it's just like if you're in a one-year lease and you pay monthly, the law is that you can continue to hold over that lease on a monthly basis. If you were in a weekly lease, you hold over on a weekly basis. So we simply have town council that was holding over, just like somebody in a contract like that. So the letter's almost ended. Here's what Todd Rokita says. Application to Hardinsburg. From the information provided to the OAG, it does not appear that elections were held for at least 10 years. However, it also appears that no candidates filed to run for any office or town council seat. Consequently, pursuant to Indiana Constitution, Article 15, Section 3, Indiana Code Sections 3-13-9-5.5 and 5.6, the town of Hardinsburg was not required to hold an election. Therefore, while the board and the commissioners correctly followed the procedures set forth in Indiana Code Section 36-5.1-5-1.1-12, that section could be considered inapplicable to the town since an election was unnecessary during the time period in question. Due to this ambiguity, the OAG maintains that the appropriate way to dissolve the town of Hardinsburg would be through a repealing statement from the General Assembly. Conclusion. Because Hardinsburg was not established pursuant to law, but rather by law, the OAG believes that the appropriate means for dissolution of the town of Hardinsburg is via repealing legislation from the General Assembly. While the County Election Board and Commissioners followed statutory procedures to dissolve Hardinsburg, it's not clear that such procedures would be applicable to the town in this situation. I'm not mad at you guys, you just made a mistake. Now, I don't know what this individual and how much, the person that's contacted Stephanie, how much sway they must have held in the community. If one person can get up and start calling the election board and, stir up a hornet's nest that a town is attempted to be dissolved. But it's clear that this was a mistake. We were dissolved by mistake. Mistakes can be corrected. We were never properly dissolved. There's no need to reincorporate. And Steph said that 138 parcels were in the town of Hardinsburg and are 2 miles by 2 miles. And obviously a lesser number than 138 citizens would be affected. And so in the last meeting, Mr. Newman, you might have remembered, you asked Stephanie directly, well, why don't we see what the people say? Why don't we have a referendum? I say maybe we should have a referendum before you move forward with dissolution. Do you have any questions for me?
No, but quite an education there, appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I think Todd Keith is an honorable man, and I appreciate him weighing in on the fact that Hardinsburg should not have been dissolved, that it was a mistake. And I'm disappointed that in the last meeting you had the opportunity to correct that mistake. Part of my FOIA, but you guys failed to correct that mistake. You just continually tabling things that are difficult that you don't want to deal with. But my FOIA request will be concerning where the funds of Hardinsburg have gone, the disposition of the $300,000 in assets. I'm trying to get some evidence for the rumors that 2 of those parcels were promised to 2 different individuals. So I'd like to put that FOIA request forward. And you know what? We've had a couple of years where Hardinsburg residents' property taxes and other taxes would have flowed up to the county level, and I think it's important that we discover how those funds have been used. Because there are people who have had expenditures such as snow removal in the town of Hardinsburg that the county didn't take care of even though they were provided with an invoice. Thank you.
David Cole.
How y'all doing this morning?
All right, how you
Good
guys?
morning.
All right.
It's gonna be
Well-
tough to follow that.
What was that?
That's gonna be tough to follow that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, most of what I was gonna bring up, Lucy just said, but I'm gonna reiterate, one thing she said was about the taxes going up. We were told before the town was dissolved that the county taxes were actually a lower percentage, which they were, like a fraction of a percent. In the past 3 years since the county dissolved the town, our taxes have went up 36%. So,
Delaware's dead.
It doesn't have anything to do with that.
the other thing is, as far as like snow removal and roads and all that stuff, my concern is, since you all been tabling things and pushing things back for so long, when is something actually gonna be done? There are roads that need to be repaired, there's preparations that need to be made, if there's snow removal that needs to be done, or any kind of drainage issues that need to be fixed or anything else. So if you are going to continue to hold the town, do you have a plan going forward to take care of the town? Or are we paying taxes to fund Salem's development and leave the town languishing in the corner of the county?
I'll respond to that. Your
Hardinsburg is being treated no different than, say, Fredericksburg, any of these other unincorporated towns. So, you know, it'd probably be a little difficult to go down there and find any potholes that you wouldn't find anywhere else. You know, we have almost 900 miles of roads. We have other responsibilities, and I would like to put this to bed about this snow removal that you keep mentioning. I went the last snow we had of the season, which was about 2 or 3 inches, and it was pretty slick. We had a truck down there. I went down there personally that morning and drove around the town of Hardinsburg while our county highway department crew was plowing the streets. And by the way, we can't use a full-size tandem dump truck. He was doing it with a ton truck with a salt spreader on it because the roads are so narrow. Some of them are 9 feet wide. This area that you keep talking about that did not get plowed is an alley, and you were told several times that there's a tree growing off to the side of it. And by the way, all the streets, 3 streets around this area where you live are shaped in a U. Both of the exits and entrances come out on Highway 150. Your alley splits those parcels right in 2. There's probably, what, 9 parcels there. And you know what? I noticed that all of that was plowed, with the exception of your alley, which you were told several times that they can't get a truck down because they can't make the corner. And you know what else I discovered? Every driveway within that area where those 8 or 9 parcels are is accessible to the roads we plowed. The only accessibility for the alley is the rear entrances of these residents. And you led people to believe that that was the only way that these people could get in and out, and that is simply false, and you know it. And I would be happy to drive down there right now and take as many people that wants to go and show them and show the public what you're saying about plowing this alley, and it's denying accessibility to these people is totally not true, and I'll prove it to you.
Well, I'll prove you wrong on that, Todd, because his driveway is not accessible to anything other than the alley, and neither is 2 of his neighbors.
It's not true.
That is true. That is true. And I went to you when this all happened.
Where's the
You
fir-
said,
where's the further one?
does that alley get plowed prior to that? And I told you yes, and then you said, well, Mr. Coley needs to deserve to be paid back.
where's
So
the
I
fir-
give him instructions on what to do, and then you reneged and lied and said you did not say that right in the public meeting. Did he not, Dave? And there's probably other people sitting out here in this audience right now that would admit to that. So don't sit here and patronize these poor people down here, because I know for a fact, I grew up there, I live around there, and his driveway is not accessible to anything other than the alley, and there's what, 3 other homes right there, or 2, that is not.
Where's your front door?
My front door is actually in my front yard, my driveway is in my backyard.
I'm not
My
gonna say
neighbor is
any, I'm not
actually
gonna say
right
anymore.
up to that.
The proof is down there.
The other thing I was gonna tell you, we're not the only ones that had to plow. Larry Cooper also had to plow on Cooper Street because they did not plow his road. Renetta and Joe Westby had to have their road plowed because they live at the top of the hill, did not get plowed. Tammy and Barry Wells did not get their road plowed either, going the opposite direction on Swan Street behind Gypsy Ridge.
Their driveway is not accessible to the highway or the road either.
None of them are. Without coming down those roads, there is no way for them to get out onto 150.
I've got no more to say about that. It's all there. All you gotta do is go look at it.
And I welcome anybody who wants to come out to the area and see what I'm talking about. My question is there preparations if it happens again, or would we be better off with the town taking control where it was taken care of while they were in control of the snow removal? Because the first 3 years we lived there, we had a fairly heavy snow, did not have a problem because the town did have a plow. Even on that little narrow road, it's true.
They actually hired, Shad to use his skid loader, correct?
Yeah. He came down and plowed several times. And he made sure he didn't just get Roll Street behind us, he got all the way up to Tammy and Barry's house, all the way over to Renee and Joe's at the top of the hill, and Larry Cooper's. I was contacted by Larry Cooper's daughter shortly after the snow removal, the first time I was in here talking about the reimbursement, and she told me that her dad had to have snow removed. Well, unfortunately, about 3 weeks later, he passed away. So,
Rick not coming in today. Rick? Best thing I can say right now is we're gonna get ahold of the highway department. That's the only answer I can give you today. But I do have one more question. If you get the town back, who's gonna take care of these problems now? Who, I mean, since we took it over 2 years ago, we didn't develop all these problems. But what led up to this to cause these problems? And if you get it back, how are you gonna remedy, with 123 people, the money to repair what needs to be taken care of? I know we just spent $7,000 on a sewer down there that should have been fixed a long time ago that was neglected. But no, you want it back.
and the
My
answer-
question is, how are you gonna control and keep the upkeep for the citizens of Hardensburg?
The answer to that is the town board that was in place will either nominate new people to be on the board, or they will continue to do the job. And as this year ends and the next year begins, and they get a budget, then they will be eligible for the community crossing grants, just like they were when they paved Sinking Creek Road, and the development will start. The drainage was already in the process, they already had a survey done by a contractor, and they were working on a plan to start fixing the drainage when the town was unincorporated, and all that went out the window. So we've been sitting in limbo for almost 3 years now with the drainage issues. And as far as the roads and the snow removal goes, they were being taken care of by the town, so it wasn't an issue.
So the roof on the fire department is leaking. Have you got preparation for that?
I wasn't even aware the roof was leaking on the fire department.
Well, I wasn't either, but I definitely heard about it now. And the senior citizens, that's another one. We had to send our mechanic down there to move a water heater. I mean, that's the only thing I'm saying. No, we're not, despite what you've said, and we're the three bad guys on the board here, that we were told it was being neglected and citizens wasn't getting what they deserve. And that's why we made the move to do what we were told we had to do. Now, as far as I'm concerned, you can have it back yesterday, but I gotta go about the legal way to give it back to you.
I appreciate your good intentions. Unfortunately, our Attorney General disagrees and said that you didn't have the power to do what you did.
You know, we have a meeting here. If we didn't have a meeting here, people would raise holy heck.
Well, sure, because you're
So,
required to have.
and that's
these
right.
meetings by
And
law.
the town of Hardensburg needs the same thing. Have meetings, have open door policies, have it stapled. Give the people, the taxpayer, the justice they deserve.
They're under the circumstance, or they think that the town never had meetings. I know for a fact the town had meetings, you attended them, so did other people there. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, you
They
are.
they had monthly meetings
No,
posted
you're
on.
not.
May I
correct.
speak? May I speak?
You
The
absolutely
initial-
are not correct.
the
I don't want this
initial
getting out of
problem-
hand here, okay?
The original problem of Hardensburg that was put into question back in the teens was by a legal resident asking to attend town board meetings. The town board meetings did not exist. The original question was, when can we come and speak? There are problems in this town. We wish the problems to be addressed. The original request was, when are the town board meetings? All it was an initial question as we need these problems addressed. We wish to come to the town board meetings. There were
no town board meetings.
That one was a
There
town
were
board
no-
meeting, you remember the date?
There
Wait,
were
wait.
no town board meetings during that era. I do not care if there were minutes sent to the state of those town board meetings. They did not exist. There was proof repeatedly requesting town board meetings. Other people wished to come. They did not exist. The initial problem had nothing to do with elections, had nothing to do with elected representation. It had to do with when are the meetings so we can ask questions and address the problems. That was the original problem.
So was there no posting anywhere of the town meetings?
Let me correct you, Phil. We moved in 2019, and from the minute we moved in, we had Thomas Shad cutting our grass. I talked to him the very month we moved in, and he told me that if I wanted to know anything about the town, to go to the town board meeting. My wife and I went to every town board meeting except 3. One, the week that the Ballville meeting happened that you were at, because my wife's mom passed away in Pennsylvania, we had to go bury her. 2 was because of COVID shutting down. Every other month, there was a paper posted on that fire department where they had a meeting every single month. And we attended every single one of them for 3 years before the town was dissolved. They even had one the week that the town was dissolved, but it wasn't an official meeting at that point because you all had already taken control of the properties and money. So if there wasn't an official meeting, how would they sign up for a community crossing grant and get road work done that they had to go through all the steps in order to get approved for the grant for? How are they getting a budget if there wasn't meetings?
Every penny that was taken out of your bank account went to a special account.
I don't know.
Only bills have been paid contrary to what you're stating that were crooks. Only one thing, everything is documented. You people think that we got free reign of money. State Board of Accounts is down our backs a heck of a lot worse than they are yours. We can't get by with that. There's no way.
I'm not concerned.
And we're not squandering your money.
I'm not concerned about what's happening with the money. Yeah, it bothers me. Yeah, it's something I do worry about. What I'm worried about is going forward, are things going to be taken care of? And if everything's still in limbo, we feel like we're being held hostage because you all aren't taking care of things, and town's not taking care of things, and we're being bounced back and forth like a ping pong ball, where we're in the middle of everything.
I agree with what you're saying, and I'm being bounced around like a ping pong ball, okay? But to do it right, I've got to go through legal steps to do it. You heard it this morning.
Yep.
I mean, it ain't just like I can say, okay, it's back.
Okay? I'm not
We don't get that luxury. But at the same time, your bank account is going down. Your expenses is going up. And that does bother me. But to dump it back onto somebody that's gonna be basically facing bankruptcy right off the bat, I don't like.
I don't know what to tell you about bankruptcy, and as far as the money goes, like Lucy said, there's been money collected for the last 3 years that went into the Salem or Washington County General Fund.
Everything we've got documented,
That's not an issue.
everything we've got is documented on paper to
I've
the
got the
T.
fund report right
What
here
I'm saying
that
is
will
that's
show
not
you
the issue.
exactly what's been spent, what's been brought in. So if anybody has questions, they can see exactly what's been spent, and none of it has went to Salem or Campbellsburg or anywhere else. So I don't know where you get your information, but right here it is in black and
And if you
white.
let me finish what I was saying, monies went into Washington County's general fund, which means if the town's put back, the town will have its own income and own budget going forward to next year.
Again, it has not been put into the general fund. It has a fund of its own
Okay.
that was set up. I
So there
have
is
the
money
bank
there
report.
if the town put back to the town.
Yesterday, we will be doing an additional because it's in the hole.
Okay?
People will figure it out one way or the other, as far as the town goes or you go.
I'm gonna have it back.
Okay.
As I told you the last meeting, or after the last meeting, I'm just concerned with making sure people are taken care of. And right now, we're stuck in the middle, just like a lot of our neighbors, where we feel like the ping pong ball in the situation.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
I do have one more thing. as far as the petition goes, you were talking about, the number of people who wanted the town dissolved versus the number of people who wanted it kept. We gave you a petition before you voted to dissolve the town, that there was 85 people on it. 15 of those were willing to be on the town board if the town was kept as a town. So there is a vast majority of people that were willing to do that. And they may not be registered voters, but they're homeowners, they're property owners, they're taxpayers, they're residents, and it should all have those because
That'll be up to you. Is there a William Saylor here? William Saylor? Okay. Need a motion to approve the minutes. Everybody had a chance to read them?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Todd made a motion. Tony second. I'm having trouble with your name this morning.
Huh?
I'm having trouble with your name on it.
I do at times myself.
Appreciate it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of claims and payroll. Any questions? Any updates?
We
Need a
had
motion?
one left over from last month. Was
Which
that-
one? Yeah, that
something
one's,
about
okay. That one's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the claim.
Tony made a motion.
Second.
Todd second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Look at there, Tom, we agreed on something.
You're coming around.
Paul Eckert. Come up at your own will.
I won't throw that at you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Quick update on the BOT highway project. If you haven't been out there, the office, they have installed drywall, coated and sanded. We put primer coat on the walls of paint. The brick for the building will be delivered today. And in our back and forth, originally it was all metal siding, but then we wanted to give it more of a building look rather than a pole barn, so we got the brick for the entire outside of the building, kind of look more like your government center, government building. So it's supposed to be delivered today. The mason's on call, he's probably got to finish up the job here, but he'll probably be out next week to start on the masonry for the building. And the roofer is scheduled to finish up that last little bit. He's got me on the schedule for Thursday for the office. On the site, talked to Ronnie Floyd with the city. He does have all the parts and pieces for the water service at the road. We got all the water service materials in our yard. So as soon as he gets that set, we'll run the water line up the dam, I'll say, along the bypass there of our detention pond, then branch off to each of the buildings. There'll be a 2-inch service as the main to the sign storage building, and then it'll jump down to 1 inch going to the mechanics garage. Spoke to Chris at Midwest Gas about the gas line. We're coordinating it on the road and on the site. Actually supposed to meet him on site here today or tomorrow, and we'll discuss how that's going to be routed on the site. Really want that after our water line, so if our water line deeper, we don't want to get into it with might get the deepest utility in first. So we'll get that, I'll get with him, get that routed, determined. Spoke to Duke, Joey Perry, kind of gave him an update. Told him as soon as I get the water line, gas line through that area of the dam, then that will release him to do the final power into the property. If you've been out there in the last week or so, you can see the mixed salt and salt building foundations going in, and also the aggregate bins foundation going in. Right now, the concrete crew is just bouncing back in the wall, footing the wall, just kind of trying to get production every day, doing some of the concrete work. The mechanics garage, engraver comes out on Thursday, it's gonna have them do all their final measuring for the building, as far as the height and everything, to get their material list together for the mechanics garage, and the same with the mixed salt and salt buildings. We did change the orientation from 80 foot wide, 100 foot deep is what it is. It used to be 100 foot wide, 80 foot deep. So same volume, just a different orientation. So I want to have them put a tape measure on it just to double check things. Julia with the state, Julia Hayes with the State Department of Health. She had 2 clarifications on the septic system. My engineer submitted them to her this week, and that should be approved by the end of the week. And after we get the utilities in, we'll throw that in. But we won't get, like I say, all the utilities that get across, we want to get them in first, and then we'll put the septic in.
Okay, I don't know if it's been forgot, and it might be with, you might talk to Kevin. They was supposed to be on the back side of that truck lane too, it's no big deal. But they should be 2 receptacles back there to plug
Okay.
heaters in. And I don't know if they just haven't got around to it, or we forgot it, or what.
You say on the truck lane too, Phil?
It'd be 2 on the back. You know, we talked about it one time, setting a pole way back in the back. Rather than do that, we was gonna put them on the back of the barn,
Yeah, on the
east side.
east end? Okay.
Yeah, might remind him about that.
Okay. He is gonna be there. I got 2 jobs with the electrician. He's gonna be bouncing between our Lake Linda job and
Right.
in the bathhouse, so I will ask him on the link too. Okay? All right.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thanks.
What kind of rebar and what spacing is there in the, where you park the trucks at? There's some erratic cracking with concrete, you get erratic cracking, but I'm trying to, a few people's asked me, and I'm trying to tell them as long as there's enough of rebar in there and it don't separate, it should be fine.
I want to say the engineer designed that as it's a rebar mat.
Right.
I think it was a number 4 inches on center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. And it's different than a number 4 bar.
Right.
It's I think the mat was a W4, W inches on center. I think that's what it is.
Right.
And I think we got some out there on the ground for the mechanics garage, if you want to.
I was just curious, because I went out and looked at it yesterday, and they didn't seem to be separating by no means, but
Correct.
people just wanted some assurance on it.
Yeah, I was monitoring it, because it's one thing if it's up and down.
That's what I'm saying, when it starts separating and spreading apart, then you do have a problem, but rather than now, I don't see any evidence of that.
I've walked it a few times and scraped my feet as I go, just to see if there's any separation. I'm not feeling it.
So, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. April? Nothing?
Nothing.
Cameron? Todd?
I'm good. See everybody at the fair. Motion to adjourn.
Council, have anything? You had a meeting this week?
We had a meeting yesterday,
Yeah, we
and
had.
just to clarify, the questions about money going to Hardensburg. We did add, an additional $16,000 yesterday to go to the Hardensburg account because it is in arrears, so we are not putting,
It's gotta be approved at the next meeting though, right?
no, we approved it.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. But we started the process, but just to clarify, so I would appreciate, people clarifying the rumors of money going somewhere that it is not. It is going to the town of Hardensburg.
Anything else?
What we gonna amend it to?
Tony?
What, we gonna amend that to bring that up or not?
What's that?
To rescind the ordinances? I thought we
We bring
decided to
it
do
in,
that.
we sent it up today.
If
On the
if
Hardensburg.
a commissioner wants to amend the agenda, they may do so.
I
It
make a
doesn't
motion
happen
to amend the
automatically.
agenda to add Hardensburg on
To the. Okay,
to.
Second?
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Anything
So
else?
you've
No, now we
amended
got
the
the-
agenda. Okay,
To amend the agenda,
Yep.
and we made a motion?
and so what is the motion now that you've added that to the agenda?
To rescind the ordinances 8,
10.
10, and 11, and to accept the agreement. You gotta help me.
So commissioners, there is a pending lawsuit involving the Hardensburg PAC, and the commissioners, as you are aware, I guess this is more for the public's knowledge, for a couple of years now, that lawsuit has been pending. There's been negotiations between the PAC and the defendants. It's more than the commissioners. It also involves the election board. All parties have preliminarily accepted it. What needs to happen today, if the commissioners want to move forward with that settlement agreement, which would include, give me just a moment. The county commissioners agreeing to repeal ordinances 22-8, 2022-10, and 2022-11. In addition, the settlement provides that the commissioners will transfer back property belonging to the town of Hardensburg that was deeded to Washington County. The county that may remain after the dissolution of the town. And then Washington County Superior Court will retain jurisdiction as needed for the town, should it need to file any request to be restored. These ordinances are null and void, and therefore the town of Hardensburg goes back to the way it was prior to those three. Board, if you vote today to rescind those three ordinances, it will come back in the next meeting to formally adopt the order to rescind.
On the 17th.
That's correct. So today, the board is wanting to consider a motion to accept a settlement agreement
I make that motion.
and just acknowledgement that this order rescinding the three ordinances are presented for first reading.
No, I'll clarify that right now. I resigned off the PAC as of January 1st when I
Okay.
became commissioner.
All right. Tony made a motion.
This is a motion to accept the settlement agreement and present the order rescinding those three ordinances for first reading. I have a motion by
Yeah.
Tony. Okay.
Need a second? I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Nay.
Okay. Now I need a motion for adjournment.
I made that motion. I'll repeat it again. Motion to
Todd's made a
adjourn.
motion. All in favor, say aye.
Do we announce the meeting that we're making a special? Say it again. Do you announce the meeting that we're doing a special? No.
That's the litigation.
No, that wouldn't be litigation.
What are you saying? You talking about the White House?
Yeah, that wouldn't be litigation.
There is gonna be a special meeting on the, what we said, 9th?
10th. 10th of June at
10th
nine
of
a.m.
June,
Okay,
9 o'clock here at the courthouse.
all right. I second the adjournment.
So, adjournment,
Yep.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. You drink it today.
It's probably like I wanted to do, 26.